Hello, this is Whitney Fisher with Many Hands for Peace, and I'm here with Cary with 21st Century Superhuman and Carolyn DeAngelis, all the way from Illinois. And we're going to do just a quick video tonight about how to spin Magrav coils and to make sense of them, because we've been working on making some car units and Magrav setups. So this technology was introduced by Mara Keshe of the Keshe Foundation last October, and we are making a plasma device. It's basically a gravitational magnetical coil, and we're using some specifications based on an 18 gauge wire. So most of the Magrav coils that you're going to find out there are 14 gauge round bare copper wire. This time we're going to be using an 18 gauge, and just really wanted to make a show to show you how to spin them and then how to connect them, because it gets to be a grand puzzle, but it's not that difficult. There's some tools here for you to get through it, and you can do it right at home. So I'm actually going to move so that you can see the screen, see what I'm doing. And the things that we're going to need for this is a lot of pliers, but you don't need all of these. I just like to have some of them. So a good pair of needle nose pliers is probably the most basic and the only pliers that you truly need for this. But you can get really fancy, and you can get little pliers that will cut stuff off closer. Got some nice flat pliers there. Some like that. All right. Just to give an idea of what kind of tools. You'll also need a power drill. And we're going to be winding these coils counterclockwise.
Do we need any special kind of drill for this? Does it have to have certain features on the drill?
I think that the most important feature is that you'll be able to adjust this here. So you need to be able to adjust and put different size bars on there, on the drill. So it can be a corded or powerless, you know, but as long as you can condense this down. I think it's called an adjustable chuck. We're also going to be winding all the coils counterclockwise, so that is a magnetical. And that means that we're going to go in reverse in our drill. If we're going to wind something gravitational, we'd be going forward. Also have a ruler. And we have already gone through and determined that we're going to use these two size bars. This is a 1/4 inch round bar, and this is a 3/8. Or is it 5/8? 5/8. So these are both very common. You can have them cut or cut them with a hacksaw if you want to cut them in half. You don't need to be quite that long. You can get those at any hardware store. And those sizes in the US are very, very prevalent. So the way that we determine this, here we have a set of, here, look, we don't have to have them labeled for this, but you want to have your coils sitting inside of each other comfortably here. See the gap? All right.
Yep.
And so you can do a couple different tests. There's different ones. This is 18 gauge wire. It's a lot different in size than the 14 gauge. However, we have double checked with several different sources that the 18 gauge is fine for home and power units. However, it hasn't been done widely yet. So if you prefer to do 14 gauge, you can find that in hardware stores and strip the coating off of the wire. This wire is very simple to get on the internet. We're using a 1,000-foot reel here, and this was donated to Many Hands for Peace to make these units. So we've got that sitting on the floor. All right. So what else do we need here? I think that as far as tools, that covers it. All right. We're just going to get winding, and then more questions will get done here. Can you show a close-up of the Magrav coil specifications? So this will be posted with this video. It is a draft. That means that some of the how long the tails loop back through and everything right now are not specific to what we're doing in this video, but the information on this will help you understand how to make these coils. And if you'll stay there for a second, I'll actually put this up in the video as well, so we'll be able to see it.
You want me to focus on the first coil?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to make 4 coils. And there's going to be 2 that are thinner, these first 2, and there's going to be 2 that are thicker. All right, so there's a lot of information on this that might be confusing at first, but kind of the point of this video is to help people understand all the clues on this to help them wind these coils correctly. So we're going to wind the coils all starting from this side of the coil. So the A is going to be where you start winding, and the B is going to be the end of the coil. Let's show this. So that's one sample coil there. All right. The first 2 coils are gravitational, and we're going to wind them on this 1/4" bar that I'm pointing at the screen with. And they're going to have a little bit of a lead. We've changed the measurements because we've made them a little bit fatter than what is on this schematic. And on the gravitational coils, you have a long tail on them. That long tail has to loop all the way back the coil. So you're going to have a coil, when you actually wind it up, it's going to be tightly wound. It's going to be one length. And then you're going to space it a little bit out so that it's kind of like this one here. See, there's spaces in there. You're going to space it out, and then it's going to be another length. So you have to make sure that your tail has enough length to loop back through itself, like this coil. This is a little bit smaller, but it's a good example. See, this tail is longer because it has to go all the way through itself. And come out the other side and still have a little bit to work with. Like that. Okay. So for this set, you're going to need a small one that goes inside here and another one that goes inside here. So there's going to be 2 different sizes, and that's why on the schematics you have one that's shorter and one that's longer. You'll notice the turn count. In this application, we're going to be doing 81 turns and 126. So it's going to be a little bit smaller than what's on these schematics, but you can use them as a base. So here we've got the negative entry in. So your A lead is always going to be, it's going to be where if you're building a Magrav, that your live wire is connected. And then the very last wire here is going to be where the load out is connected, where your negative, or sorry, not your negative, but the opposite of the live. All right. On the end of every one, you can see it says B connects to C. So it gives you very clearly the next coil it's going to connect to. So here's C, and then we go down through C, and then we get to D. So right here is where the plasma flow reverses from gravitational to magnetical. So it actually goes this way. And now we have a magnetical coil, and that's the fatter outer coils. this fatter outer coil, you see. Gonna go from D, and this G here, this is gonna connect over here. So this, sorry, I was pointing to that. So this end is gonna end up connecting over here. And then going through, and the H would be your load out. So when you're done with this coil set and it's all connected, there's only 2 wires that will be coming off of it. There'll be one coming off the small set, and that's your A, I guess, and then there'll be one coming off the large set, which would be your H wire. Another thing to look at on the schematic is that the ends that are resting together when they're inserted. So we're going to use this a lot. This is a little bit of a key. This means that when you put these coils parallel inside of each other, which ends are actually going to be together, because there's a lot of information on here that gives you clues to that. Okay. Then in the connections, here are the coil connections. The tips B and C are connected, D and E are connected, and F and G. So that leaves you A and H that haven't been connected. All right, we're going to get going, and I'm sure there's going to be more coming up about that. So last night we spent a while and we determined how long a coil would be that would be 81 turns, and how long at 18 gauge wire, and how long a coil would be at 126 turns for the 18 gauge wire. So we have already double checked and double counted, and you can do this as well. You wind the coil up and count it and then measure it, so that you can get an accurate assessment of how long it takes, because counting these coils every single time gets a little nuts. So on this, we're going to start with the inner gravitational coil and a 14-inch bar. Take your drill.
Now, why do you have that yellow tape on there? Is that necessary for them to have on there?
The yellow tape is not necessary. It does sometimes help when you're pushing the coils down and keeping them tight, to have something for the coil to mesh against that's not, because sometimes there's a divot in there. And so it is kind of nice to have something for the coil to push against, but it's not required. Okay, we have our spool of wire at the left, our power to turn it on the right hand side, and what you're going to do is you're going to leave yourself a couple inches, and you're just going to insert this into the chuck. Alright, does that make sense? You're going to make sure that the drill is on reverse.
That means that side is pushed in, the left side button is pushed in, right?
Yes, yes. So I vision it as it's the one that's chosen to happen. So if it's pushed out, it's not the one that's on. And for the smaller inner gravitational coil, at 81 turns, we found that it is 3 1/4 inches of coil. So we're just going to start. Going like that. See, and I got a little extra, so you can use pliers. There we go. Just adjust it. Careful not to get your hands too close and go too fast to get your fingers stuck in there. Smushing that together, we want 3 and a fourth, and it looks like I'm over that. So we're going to unscrew some here. And if you apply enough pressure and you just pull while you're doing it, it doesn't deform the coil. So just a little bit more. Okay, is that 3 1/4?
Can you move your right thumb just a little so we can, it's over the 3 so people can actually see what measurement is. Yeah, it looks like 3 1/4 to me.
Okay. So this is the coil that's going to have a long lead. So it's 3 1/4 tightly spaced, but now we're going to space it out. And you can just do this with your hands, and remember you're creating a plasma device which responds to your intent. So as you're turning the coils and as you're working them with your fingers, this is the perfect time to infuse those heart-centered intents. Intent of these coils is to provide additional power source for a vehicle, to take good care of the occupants, to hold them in love. And anything from your heart, you can infuse that into that coil. All right. We're going to keep these evenly at 5 inches. So it's not quite 5 after I did that, so I'll just space it out a little bit more. And they really do kind of get springy, so you can space it out, shove it back down, play with it until it gets to that length that you want. There we go, 5 inches.
A little longer, is that all right? Yeah. There we go.
There you go. Okay, that means that we need at least 5 inches of tail to get back through here, and then some to play with.
As per the chart over here. Said.
So we're working on coil A, B, and B has a tail, in this case, of 5. It's going to be 5 inches spaced. So we need 5 inches, plus we're going to give ourselves another inch here. So we're going to make it 6 inches long. So in here, this would be tip A, and the one we cut will be tip B. So just hold your thing there. And cut it off, and now you have the first of your 4 coils. So the second one is going to be coil C, D. We're going to leave an inch to 2 inches on, or inch and 3/4 to 2 inches on the front. And this is going to be a 126 turn coil. And it is going to end up being 5 1/16 tightly wound and 7 1/4 spaced. So we'll have a tail that's going to be a 7 1/4 plus 2 inches. So that'd be 8, 9, 9 1/4 for that. And the wire. And it's nice to get some off the reel before you get going. If it starts to pull your hand down, it can get your coil a little out of whack. Start with a couple inches here. Put that in the chuck. Make sure you're on the right setting. That's just too kinky. I just got looks, so it was awesome. There we go. It was getting kind of tight on the reel. Some more off. And you can develop something that will have that spin. You can do a lot of cool stuff. Let's see how long this is. We're shooting for 5 1/16. We're going up to there. This is what we do for fun every night. Okay, still not there. Sometimes when you spin it and there's so much of a gap, you want to just pull it off because you can't get it flush with itself again. And the more you play with it, the more you have to play with it. So get that together. We're just going to go 1/16 over 5 marks. So. And you can also consistently make a mark where you say, this is where I'm going to start my coil. You could actually write with a Sharpie on there. It tends to wear off pretty fast, but you can do that too. You don't have to do it this way. So how are we looking? Is that 5 1/16 there?
On that end it looks, yeah, it looks good to me.
Okay, so now we want to space it out to 7 1/4. And you'll find that there's just a natural length that these will get to when you space them in them out like that. We tried to choose that length. It's a little bit longer here. We're looking for 7 1/4. And there is a little bit of flexibility when you're assembling them to have them at the right spot too. So there's 7 1/4. So we're going to leave it 7 1/4 plus 2 inches. So we're going to go to 9 1/4 right here. And cut it there. And we're just leaving every coil just a little bit different length. It's fine if the leads are a little different. You're going to be cutting them anyway when you attach them. Alright, so there is your second gravitational coil. So that's the coil that's going to go inside the outer, the larger coil. Okay, let's switch bars and roll. It's kind of a long bar to don't want to hurt anybody. Now if you get some bars will just fill that entire thing up and you won't be able to put a wire in there. You can get a pipe clamp. Put your pipe clamp over there and you can have a place to stick your wire if you can't get it inside the chuck.
That's a good idea.
Alright, so here we got. Now, your second two coils are going to be the exact same sizes as the first two, but they're just going to be fatter. We're going to wind the FE coil now and it's turned around backwards, there's a reason, because they're not assembled directly like this. You kind of have to get the clues here to get the assembly down so you have the gravitational magnetical coil sitting right. So we're going to start winding this coil on F, even though logic sense you would start on E, but we're going backwards. So we're going to start with F, we're going to give it about 1 inch, and we're going to make it the same length as this shorter coil up here, which was 3 1/4. And then we're just going to leave an 1 inch tail on it. It doesn't have to have a long tail. Alright, we're still on the right thing. Give ourselves at least 1 inch. So we're looking for 3 1/4, almost there. Still a little short? I think so. One more turn. Looks like. Okay, so on this coil we're just leaving about 1 inch tail. This is a magnetical coil. Okay, we want to space this one out. It was 3 1/4 inch, now we want to space it to 5 inches. This 18 gauge really spaces easily. The 14 gauge is a little bit stronger. So you find if you play with it, you can get it to the spot where it looks very even and nice. And the suggestion from the Keshe Foundation is a distance of 0.9 millimeters, just for you techies out there. So if you need to tighten it up at all, you can tighten it up. Other way.
Other way. So you did the tightening by reversing it and then holding it still, and it
to kind of tighten it up a little bit. So that's pretty good. It's when we actually loop it together, it's going to change a little bit in nature. So it's okay if we're a little bit over. Okay, so there we have coil EF, your third coil that you're going to wind, and we're going to wind one more. So this coil here is a little different because we're going to wind from this perspective, but that is your last end. And it's going to have at least about 5 inches because this is the magnetical out, or the positive out to load. So we're going to have 5 inches before we actually start turning it and just a very small tail. A way you can do that you can use the hose clamp, or if there's room in your chuck, you can fit it in like that. Just don't let this get to you. Right. Oops. Really pay attention to your hands while you're working with this stuff so you don't hurt yourself. Woo! There you go. That's a common thing that happens. Doubles back. So just switch your drill. Hold some pressure so you're pulling on it. Pull it off. And pull it well off to where it's, you know, a good start for your starting again. Oh, not even close. When you do a lot of them, you can really get to where you almost go exactly to where you need to be. You can make it a game. So we're shooting for 5 1/16.
Might be just enough.
Get back in there. There we go. Now, it would be probably preferable if you want to have a counter that will count these every time. I've woven, or I guess woven, the new knitting for women is making gravitational magnetical coils, you know.
Oh, wait,
so,
hold on. Okay. So we were on the last coil here when we lost, we had to stop the recording.
So when we assemble it, we'll be pushing these together a little bit more. So spaced it a little further than we wanted. About there. Wow. All right, there are your 4 coils. Here's your last one there.
Got some crimps there.
Yeah, take the crimps out. This is why these flat pliers are so great. Alright. Okay, so if I line these up from perspective of the picture, actually we just...
Yeah, because we get a little shadow on that side. Beautiful.
From the perspective of the picture, I want to do it. All right. So this is in the perspective of the actual coil specs. You have
Let's remind them.
So you have A, B, C.
Oh, hold on, can you go a little slower?
Yes.
I missed your hand in there.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. B, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Maybe seems like ABCs, but it really does work to get to know these ends of the leads, because part 2 of the video will have to be done tomorrow when we have clear heads. Because then we're going to put them all together.
And that will make anyone crazy.
Yes. So, okay, we'll come back tomorrow. Thank you.
Done.
Okay. All right. So we want this little connector to be wind up to right here. So we're going to bend this thing, put it in the chuck, make sure you got it.
Let me just show them. Show them. Okay. Just like we rolled all the other coils.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's a really teeny, cute coil.
Okay. And it's going to hang straight down, so I found it's better to bend it while it's sitting on the wire. It makes it easier.
Okay.
And so that's going to sit right down there. Bend it like that. Now, depending on your application, if you're doing a vehicle, you want to make a really good secure connection, especially if there's going to be a lot of vibration. And I'd almost suggest making sure these connections are glued or resined in or something. This wire is particularly, I mean, if you got a lot of vibration going, you want to have a good connection. So we're going to loop this. If you get gummy stuff from taping, you can take a little caustic spray and just wipe the wires. And also you can do a caustic bath before you start nanocoating. So if you get the wires gummy, make sure you clean them off. Going to loop this back on itself.
Hold it there for a second so we can see the loop back on itself. Oh, I think we need to go from the side a little bit. Oh, it's up. Hold, right there, right in. Okay, so that little coil has a little loop. There we go.
Okay. So that one's going to go inserted into here.
The blue.
The blue
one that
right
still has the
there.
blue label on is going into the. Now does it go into the loop?
We're not going to insert it quite yet.
Oh, okay.
Just because it'll be easier this way. So
okay.
I'm going to have to leave that unmarked.
Oh no, that'll be. That'll kill me.
Okay, so now we got C is going to get connected to
So let's look at C. Just okay. So we have it marked. So that's all right. So C connected to what? C is the inner
going to
coil,
go down
right?
and connect to that. So it's kind of going to be the same way on this side as it was on the other side. We're going to roll it up so it comes right off the side there.
Just straightening it out some.
Yeah. So it's going to end up being right here. So we've got quite a bit of extra space here. I'm going to take some of that off. Doing the same as we wound it. We wound them magnetical or counterclockwise, so we have the drill in reverse.
So we haven't changed, whoops, we haven't changed our drill button. It's still pushed in on the left side, popped out on the right.
Just going to turn it sideways so it hangs down. So that was C.
We'll make a loop in that one too.
Yes.
Okay.
Flow along. I've also made these coils and cut these flush. I think there's something to looping them back, so we're going to do that on these. They get out of whack, you can just push them back together. All right. Okay, so now we're not going to do that connection yet. Now we've got the yellows left. Process elimination. All right, this is the one that's going to thread through, so we want the loop on this one.
So we're at the big coil.
Got a little gummy stuff on there. Want to get it off? So I'm just going to take a little bit off of that. It doesn't seem like it's long enough. And I haven't worked really with this size, with this thickness or roundness, so I think this needs to be pretty tight. You don't want to block the wire from coming out that side.
So which wire don't we want to block when you finish making the loop?
The one that comes through it. It's going to come through it.
No, I see. The loop at the end, you could actually block the wire from going through, so.
And this wire is pretty flexible, but I mean, it's better to leave yourself in a good spot. Okay, so now we have all the connections wound. Now we're going to insert these into those connections. Okay? This is where we got to remember where we're at.
I would have remarked them with the tape. You could do that if you wanted to.
Could remark them with the tape.
Of course, this way you
we'll just
start
have
to learn
our...
by looking where they are, and that's what the goal is, I suppose, eventually.
Eventually. Okay, so F is going to get connected to G. And we're going to end up cutting some of this off, so... And G is on the opposite side of H. It's the big fat one on the opposite side. So...
That was H right there. Okay, so G goes into there.
There's G, and this is F.
Hang on. Oh, there we go, okay.
Okay. Now I'm just going to leave this loose for a little bit. You'll have to cut off quite a bit, but this will let us get the rest of them through without...
Now, that was G went through H, you said?
G went through...
And we know that because
F.
over here...
G and F are connected, so right...
At the bottom, G and F, F and G, right. Okay.
So then we'll do D and
one
E.
of those two other ones. Depending on what she decides over here.
Okay, so here's D. And we're looking for E, which is on the opposite side of F, which we just connected, right? So that was the fatter coil.
Right. Opposite
and
side.
E is next to B, so it'd be this one right here, this little guy.
Okay. Think I'm following?
I don't know if I'm following here. So we're going to do D and E, is that what we're doing?
I don't know. I've already lost that part.
Okay. Now this is where you kind of want to just look at the flow of it, you know, where the wires are going to sit so that they cross each other nicely. So I just inserted those in together there.
Great. Okay.
And having the right, you know, size thing to wrap is really nice
Right.
there.
So we just insert it through the coil, not to that last loop. That last loop is to turn the energy back onto itself. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we got two more, and that makes it
Woohoo!
easy. So B.
Yeah, last two left.
I just want a logical flow on how these are going to look, so they're not. Okay. All right, B and C are connected, so here's going through to C. Don't want to lose him.
I know, I can grab him.
Okay. Okay, so there's B and C. Now it looks a little crazy, but we're going to start tightening it up.
Okay.
All right. And again, all we have remaining is our gravitational in and our magnetical out.
Okay.
Not so bad. Just a puzzle.
Again, you're
It's
making
a
it
good
look
puzzle.
very easy, which is great because this can make you pull your hair out if you're trying it the first time, just based on charts.
Okay. Just going to start sucking these up so that you can get to how these are going to look here. Where's that other one here? Okay. This is where you can spend a lot of time.
So you're trying to position those little mini connection coils so that the rings can kind of lie like they're supposed to lie.
Yeah.
I gather. Is
In
what
a
you're
kind
trying
of
to
a-
do here.
And it takes a little bit of doing,
A little bit of
a little bit of
bending here and
bending
there,
and playing,
rearranging.
and then not getting ends stuck where you can't get to them like this is about to get. So I'll pull this through here. And, you know, 18 gauge is so fine that it's pretty easy to bend around, but where's that other one in the middle? So see how I just pulled that a lot closer there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I do see it's closer.
you really can adjust this right now. This is all, you can adjust it until you get it to where you like it.
Right. Now, if for some reason you weren't able to really get them that much closer, would it affect your Magrav coils, or is it more like a visual thing?
We have seen Magrav coils that are connected in almost like, look like a teardrop. Like almost, you know, you could take the right, you know, once you got them figured out, you could actually bring the coils out this way and twist them well this way.
Okay.
You know, this is, we're trying to do a little bit of a more refined connection here, but if you minimally can get the wires together, you can make a nice
Two
firm
at a
connection.
time, the right two wires you can twist to connect, okay. But you want this space right here. You don't want a big gap in between the ends of the coils, is that?
I've seen them work either way.
Okay, that's what I mean, if someone said, I'm having a hard time getting my coil closer on the edges, you know, together here, you know, would they want to maybe know if that's going to make the coil not work or something? The
plasma that we are pulling into this device is going to find its own flow. Oops. Okay. So what we are working on is creating this toroidal field.
That means go out there, okay.
Toroidal field.
Okay, good.
All right, which functions on gravitation and magnetic. So it's pushing and it's pulling, right? It's pushing and it's pulling. So that's why we have magnetical and gravitational in this. All right. Just got to get after it and get it done here. See how these are coming through? We want this one to be there. I'm going to start clipping off excess. Ooh, I really went. Now this is the spot where you don't want to lose that end.
Right.
Because it will go somewhere you'll never find it again. Once you get these wires shorter, it's harder to...
You're making like a little... I'm trying to get it up again. Okay, you made like a little loop again, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think even a better connection would be some way to take this loop and wrap it around here.
Hold on a minute. Sometimes when I try to zoom in, it just doesn't want to be that clear. Okay, you were saying sometimes you want to wrap something around something.
Let me see here. I'm not sure if that... So this... Okay. I just want to show it when it's a little bit more clearer. I'll talk about that in a second. Just a second. This guy has quite a bit of excess in there. All right, that's looking better. Good spot for him. And we may adjust these even further. We're just getting them closer. This connection is far easier if I hadn't had it looped under there. Let's see that. I'll just... Okay. So you can continue to adjust it how you want.
Well, it does look better. I wasn't sure what you were doing there, but
Just trust that it starts to come together.
It's going to be a journey on us.
And
We're newbies doing this.
yes, they all are a journey, every single one of them. Just remember, as you're making this technology, it's a peaceful technology.
You're right. Try not to get frustrated.
Yeah. And it does, mood and attitude actually does kind of impact the functioning of the devices. So, you want to be in a good, calm mood and have a fun time with it. And if you're getting too frustrated, then stop.
Go take a break.
And take a break and take a breather. And
come back and love your wires.
Come back and love your wires.
Woohoo!
There you go.
There it goes. Cool.
This has been Whitney, Cary, and Carolyn on the camera, showing you how to wind gravitational magnetical coils in the Keshe style from Keshe Foundation. You can find more information about Keshe Foundation at www.keshefoundation.org. And you can check out and become part of Many Hands for Peace, which is everyone in the world who is working on peaceful technologies together.